Time for some business news now, and our business editor Stephen Carroll joins us. Stephen, some French and German goods are facing new trade tariffs from the United States as of today. What's the reason?
Well, these are tariffs related to a long-running dispute between the US and the EU. It goes back almost 17 years, and it's to do with subsidies that were given to Airbus and Boeing, which the World Trade Organization has ruled to be illegal. And the WTO gave both sides the right to levy tariffs on each other's goods. Now, the US has been applying its tariffs to European exports since 2019, but on the 30th of December, it said that it was changing the list of the goods that it applied to, expanding them, in fact, and that was in response to the EU tariffs, which had been announced a couple of months previously. So those changes all coming into force today. These taxes, though different from the dispute over the digital tax, because the US has suspended its threat of trade tariffs on that issue for the moment. So this is to do with Airbus and Boeing.
Okay, so what are the new tariffs then?
So there are two products areas that are seeing a change. The first is to do with aircraft components, which are produced in Europe but then exported to the United States. They're going to face a 15% tariff from today. The other concerns wine. So wines that were less than 14% alcohol by volume until now were excluded from the tariffs. They're now included. They're going to be subject to 25% tariff. That's essentially all non-sparkling wines from France and Germany are now subject to this tariff. It's also going to include all grape-based spirits, so cognacs and armagnacs as well, will also be subject to these tariffs from today.
Yeah, 25%. What do you think the impact of all this will be?
Well, the French Association of Wine Exporters says that the tariffs that are already in force since October 2019 have led to a drop in sales worth some 700 million euros in the United States. It's around a 25% fall. They say these new restrictions will knock another 300 million euros off sales. They say it's particularly bad news for cognac exporters because they do very well in the United States and they'd already seen sales fall sharply due to the pandemic. On the aviation side, bad news as well. In a statement when these changes were first announced, Airbus said the tariffs were counterproductive in every way. And that's because they say it will end up hurting workers at their plant in Alabama because they take material produced elements produced in France and Germany and export them to the US to finish the planes. Those parts are now going to be subject to tariffs. Finished planes had already been subject to tariffs as well, but this will the argument is make Airbus planes more uncompetitive in the US market. There are discussions going on behind the scenes to resolve this for a very long time now, but of course with the change of administration in the United States, we might not see any changes to these tariffs anytime soon.
Well, turning to some other news now, Stephen, and dozens of major companies in the United States have stopped political donations after last week's violence in Washington.
In particular, they're suspending or reviewing donations to Republicans who'd objected to last week's election certification. The latest company names to take steps on political donations include AT&T, which is one of the biggest corporate donors. Facebook and the United Parcel Service have suspended all political donations since last week's events. The greeting card company Hallmark has even asked two Republican senators who objected to the Electoral College votes to refund PAC donations that were made during previous elections. So lots of hand-wringing going on among companies there about where their money has gone.
Indeed. Well, let's stay in the United States, and the world's biggest electronics showcase is making changes, all due to COVID.
Unsurprisingly, the Consumer Electronics Show is only digital this year, so that's meant big changes for the event's organisers, but the gadgets on show are different too, more tailored to the era of working from home. Nadia Massey reports.
It's been an institution in Las Vegas since the 1980s, showcasing cutting-edge technology. But this year, the Consumer Electronics Show is relocating to cyberspace. Because of the pandemic, the 2021 event has been forced online, although organisers insist it still has plenty to offer.
We didn't want to have people as avatars jumping from exhibit to exhibit. We didn't want to replicate a show floor. We wanted to give the companies the opportunity to present themselves. We decided then to invest heavily in the best possible digital event we could do.
So what should we be on the lookout for this year? Well, with possible lockdowns looming around the globe, it is no surprise that tech giants have focused on gadgets to improve life at home.
You've been on your computer too long.
Whether it's a robotic maid, a smart fridge, or simply an excellent pair of headphones.
2020 was a work from home year, and I think we all have a new appreciation for headphones. Whether it is taking a work call without broadcasting it across your living space, or listening to music instead of hearing today's math class from the next room.
And while products for home will dominate for the next few months, industry insiders say consumers may soon be able to broaden their horizons.
I think come the second half, if vaccinations and things like that have gone ahead, and if we start to see loosening up, then consumers will want to go and spend their money on other things.
Consumers' appetites for new gadgets may be undimmed, but interest in a digital electronics show appears a little muted. 70,000 fewer people have registered to attend this year's CES compared to 2020.
Let's take a quick look at what's happening in the markets for you. A couple of different forces driving trading in Asia today. Hopes for more stimulus in the United States providing some optimisms. We have the Nikkei in Tokyo climb to its highest level in decades, while the Kospi in Seoul has fallen as investors take profits from recent gains on the market there. On the currency markets, the euro is trading for $1.21.5 and just under 90 pence sterling.
Well, meanwhile, Stephen, the car maker Ford has announced that it's closing its operations in Brazil.
That's right. 3 factories are to close in the country, affecting around 5,000 workers. The company says it's part of an $11 billion global restructuring plan. Car sales in Brazil have fallen by more than a quarter last year, though. They're not expected to recover until 2023. Ford has operated plants in Brazil for more than a century. The news sparking political controversy there, where the Speaker of the lower house of Parliament has said the move showed a lack of credibility in the Brazilian government.
Finally, Stephen, massive losses from one of the world's biggest cruise ship operators.
Carnival Cruises reporting losses of $2.2 billion for the last 3 months of 2020. That's compared to profits of over $400 million for the same period a year earlier. Now, health authorities in the US have set very strict conditions for allowing companies to resume cruises there. That includes running mock sailings and applying for a health certificate at least 60 days in advance. Carnival says that it's hoping to resume operations on all of its ships by the end of this year. They're being suspended for at least a year until the end of March, but some hope in this part, which is, of course, one of the most tricky parts of the travel industry to restart because of the close quarters people are in.
Indeed, I think we still all remember the scenes of people being trapped on those cruise ships.
At the beginning of the
held in
pandemic.
quarantine, yeah. But hey, let's hope a year has met all the difference. Stephen Carroll with the Business News, thanks indeed for that.